and have Derek give us his observation, but I think what we want to do is get your take on what you had submitted to us and start that dialogue.
Good evening. As Ben said, my name is Derek Nielsen. I'm a colleague of Ben's. I always joke, they do the hard stuff, the technical stuff. We do the hard, soft stuff. We do the people stuff and the facilitation stuff. I'm here really tonight to learn a little bit about you guys. It's really my first introduction, apart from a discussion I had with Cheryl and Laura. It's really my introduction to the city of Gardner, so I'm happy to be here. But as a consultant, I can't help myself. You know, you have to jump in and facilitate and say stuff. You know, Ben, I think, gave a very good presentation full of a lot of ideas, packed on a lot of slides. I'm curious what you heard from that. This is the pop quiz part, right, where you put away the presentation and you say, what parts resonated with you? What ideas did you hear that were intriguing to you, that you think might have merit for the direction that the city needs to go in? What pieces of that presentation will stick with you?
I think one of the keys was, we're going to get back to you on that, but, you know, just through, I certainly didn't count them, but so many of the slides pulled back to aligning your goals with your strategic vision and making sure that one works with the other and vice versa. And the slide that took the golf course into the, you know, almost the ordinance charter, however you want to say that, that's the most thing to take away. And I think that's probably something that I'm most excited about through the process and through the upcoming year, because we're going to be closer, we're going to be farther away from the golf course and much closer to the tiered structure that's necessary. But that tying the vision into the goals is the most important piece of what we'll take away from any of this, I think.
Okay, great. That's helpful.
I think I would agree with Heath, and I think that all of us have been through budget, some of us multiple times, and we've traditionally in the past spent our time literally kind of a line by line, you know, how do we adjust this, how do we make things work. So I think this approach and stepping back and understanding what the priorities are, and then how those priorities fit into the budget is going to be much better.
How'd that line-by-line item work for you?
Well, I think, first of all, for me, it's kind of frustrating, but it's also, it's difficult to get through all of that and then understand kind of the overall impact as you're having these kind of individualized discussions. From my perspective. So, and you're not really sure, are you really accomplishing what you need to? It's almost like you're trying to, here's the number, and you're just trying to kind of maintain the status quo.
You know, sometimes I feel like in my job, I learn what I need to know by listening to the people I get to work with. I learn a lot from clients I get to work with, and a favorite client of mine taught me a long time ago the idea of highest and best use. You know, he kept saying, Derek, I don't think this is the highest and best use of my time. And that's a really important phrase, I think, for any governance situation, which government clearly is. I mean, when you think about the role of city council, what's the highest and best use of your time, skills, and know-how? And generally speaking, I think it's probably not line by line. It's the thing that only you can do, which is affirm priorities, confirm priorities, in alignment with the community needs and goals. And if we're too busy sometimes in the weeds, it's hard to make sure the priorities are what we want them to be. And talk about all the things that shape those priorities. Express community citizen goals, dealing with the external environment that's changing all the time that impacts your goals. And so I would agree. I think a lot of what Ben's talking about definitely would be a different use of your time and talents.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I think is interesting about it is that you're trying to begin with the end in mind. Now you've got to do a little work to get there, but you know, whether it's citizen involvement or retreats or collaborating with staff, I mean, you're coming up with what your goal is, you're working towards it, and You know, I think that Ben mentioned consistency a number of different times, and I realize that probably will be fair to say, but year to year, things will change, but hopefully if you've got a strategic goal and a strategic plan, it'll only change incrementally year to year.
Right. I think many times the end in minds don't change very quickly, but the tactics, the resources available, the timing changes all the time based on things that we didn't know originally. Barry, how about, you knew that was coming, right? I was staring right at you.
I figured I was next. Yeah, I just think that participating on the front end, which is sort of, I think, what you're alluding to with the goals-based budgeting,
Right.
is a novel approach. I think in the previous 2 years that I've watched the budgeting process, I felt more like a spectator at a movie that was basically given a chance at the end to do a Roger Ebert thumbs up or thumbs down. But I couldn't really control the script much, and now...
What kind of a movie was it, by the way? Just curious, was it a feel-good or a...
It was kind of a War and Peace-like movie. Went on forever, and...
Right. Right.
Didn't allow many opportunities for going to the concession stand.
Those Russian tragedies, they all end badly, too. You don't want War and Peace. Good. What about Steve? Is Steve on the phone? Can Steve?
Yeah, I'm here, guys. I didn't want to just jump in because, to be honest with you, I can't tell if I'm interrupting anybody. So I'll say this: I love the fact that we're using this approach. This is the way businesses budget. This is the way that I've worked in my departments with my IT organization. This is how how municipalities should be budgeting more often. And unfortunately, what they do is they let past become prologue, and they just say, okay, we were at these spending levels last year. We'll just ramp the spending levels up next year, and then pass a bond issue or whatever to make up the gap. And here we're taking a fresh look, and we're looking at priorities. We're looking at community priorities, our priorities as council people, and really going to try to dive down and look at how we can use our limited funds more efficiently. And that's something that I think that will go a long way towards helping to bridge some of those issues that we've had in the past.
Good, thank you. Cheryl, how about you? I don't know if you planned on me picking on you or not, but I'm curious. You're relatively new to the city, correct?
Yes, but I think my opinion is biased because this is the only way I know to lead, is to kind of do priority budgeting. It's kind of what I trained on. It's what I've done. So I don't understand the golf course no strategic plan approach. So I'm pleased that the council is willing to go in this direction. I'm glad they're buying into it, quite frankly.
Okay.
I think it's gonna make us a much more effective organization. I think it's going to, the goal is for us not to be good, for us not to be status quo, but for us to be excellent, and for us to be a high performance organization. And this is clearly the path to get to high performance.
Okay. How about other staff? You guys really didn't expect me to pick on you, maybe, I don't know. Some of you have been through this a lot of years, I'm guessing, in different ways. What are your thoughts as you listen to some of those principles and ideas earlier?
I would love to be a high-performance organization with goals, and it's a lot easier if we know where is it we want to go, so that we can all of us as staff work together.
Can align your efforts.
Coach, can align our efforts because we know where are we going.
Right.
I'm a planner by profession, so it only makes sense to start with goals, set objectives, and identify tactics or actions to get there.
Good.
Come on, Jeff, you've been through this a few times.
I have, and for several years, looking at line item by line item and going over all those details with our governing body. And in some ways, we started with that versus discussing what even our department goals and objectives are. So on today's discussion that